And we're back with Bill Lynch, part 2, and let's get into it. So let's go ahead and talk about your family.
So I told the story about my wife. We met in high school. We were high school sweethearts. Finally got married in 1985, some 10 years after our first date. There's a little bit of gap in there when we weren't dating. But as she said, I finally came back to my senses. I had chased her down to Texas and brought her back to New York. So we were married for 15 years, and we had no children. And at first we didn't want children, but then I didn't get married till I was 28. She was 26. So I'm crowding 40, and decided we really need to do something. We had tried all kinds of things. We had done in vitro, tried to do in vitro fertilization. We had done fertility. We didn't do the in vitro. We looked at it. We looked at fertility treatments. She had she was a pincushion. She had surgeries. I just couldn't have kids. Looked at adopting overseas. Those doors all got shut for us. We finally said, God, if you want us to have kids, you're going to have to just lay them in our lap. So my wife was working as a adult protective worker, caseworker in New York. And I was working for Blunt at that time. And my wife said, I need to quit my job. I said, okay. And she said, God's telling me I need to get my house in order. I said, okay. Well, so quit your job. So she did. And in 2000, less than a year later, she got a phone call from one of her former caseworkers, and they said, hey, we have 2 kids that need a permanent home. Would you guys be interested in meeting them? And we're like, yeah. They're 1 and 3. And so we met them and, fell in love with them. And 30 days later, they were in our home. Neat thing about that is, in New York, to become a foster parent, so we were foster parents. It takes 13 weeks. It's a 13-week program to go through. But because she was a caseworker, they did it for us in 3 nights. And we became foster parents. So in 30 days, the kids moved in with us. So 2 years of court, going back and forth to the courts, because the parental rights were in play. And I won't go into all the details there, but after 2 years, they were freed for adoption. And so we adopted them. It's in 2002. So it was, it was a miracle, for sure, because my wife had an ectopic pregnancy, and in part of the ectopic pregnancy, they take the fallopian tube and they cut it off and they seal it. That'll be important in a minute. So we moved to, and I had been offered to move to Kansas City before that, but we decided not to. Then we were able to adopt a kid. Well, we didn't have kids, but by not moving, then we had the opportunity to adopt the kids. Then we had to wait for the adoption to be permanent or completed before we could move. And so in 2002, we had a business to sell, a house to sell, and we started in 2003 the process. I had been promoted at that point. We had the kids, but we hadn't finished the adoption yet. In 2004, we finished the adoption, 2002 we finished the adoption. In 2004, after I had already started the job in Kansas City, we sold our house, sold the business. We had a boat, we sold that, and nothing had sold. We finally decided to move to Kansas City with a house still on the market in New York. When we moved, we got 3 offers on the house in New York, but we had to make that step. We had to just reach out in faith and just move to New York, move to Kansas City.
Yeah.
So in 2010, my wife was diagnosed with uterine cancer, and it had spread, and so that's not a good thing. But you remember I told you that she had an ectopic pregnancy, and they got sealed. The fallopian tubes got sealed off. The doctor said that saved her life because it wasn't allowed to spread out into her abdomen and then get into the rest of her body.
Wow.
So, you can see how, God can restore, things. We couldn't have kids. We had kids, and he saved my wife's life in the process. So it's a neat story. So she went through chemo, and it almost killed her, but she went through chemo, and she's been cured, and she's cancer free now. So praise the Lord. That's
That's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But in that, we got 2 beautiful kids.
So I have to ask, you started not wanting kids, but then what changed?
Well, we didn't want kids at first. We were just enjoying life. Young married couple. We had both had good jobs, and we just kind of liked it. And then we decided about in our early 30s we wanted kids. But it just wasn't meant to be. So got other plans for us. He had 2 kids he wanted us to have, I guess.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing with having kids nowadays, because if you even look back 100, 200 years ago, I mean, it was normal to be having kids when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, right? That was the thing you did.
Right.
But then with technology and all the hustle and bustle that's been incorporated into our daily lives, it's almost like we're getting pulled to that, and then putting the brakes on kind of the kid thing, right? And then hit mid-30s, maybe even late 30s, early 40s. Now I'm ready for kids, but then our bodies are like, you kind of missed it.
Right. Yeah. So I was 42 years old when we got the kids.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So now my son was already 3 years old at that time, but still, I'm an older father.
But it worked out. I mean,
It did.
I think there's definitely some advantages to that. A little bit more mature. I definitely know, because we had our kids when I was 30, so I was a little bit older, now in the early 20s, and I know that if I had my kids in the early 20s, it would have been a mess.
Right.
Just me mentally and my maturity level was not there. And I'm not saying that everybody should wait till 30. Everybody needs to do what's God calling them to do. But I just find it interesting nowadays. It's just like kind of become the norm to wait longer than it was before.
Right. And I'm not saying that was a choice, but that's the way it worked out for us.
Sure.
Yep.
Now you have 2 beautiful kids. How old are they now?
They are 26 and 24.
Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So
let's get back to your franchise. So I do want to ask if you have any advice or tips for those who are in a partnership, thinking about getting into a partnership, because I've heard horror stories with those who are in partnerships.
right. And I agree. Probably ideally you wouldn't get into a partnership. I think it just gives you more flexibility. However, I'm not 20, and our business is pretty physical. My partner takes care of the operation side of things, and I do more of the sales and finance side of things.
Okay.
But if I got to go out and train somebody or I got to go out and do a job, I'll do it. But that's not my preference.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy a business to have a job. I bought a business to manage a business.
Sure.
And grow it. So our roles work out really good together. He was in manufacturing. He was the plant manager, and I was in sales and marketing.
Oh.
So it was a good partnership.
Did you have that conversation beforehand? Hey, I'll do more of this. You do more of that.
Sure. Well, so that was my role with the company that I was with. He was the plant manager, and I was in charge of sales and marketing. So those are our roles. And he did more of the operations. I did more of the sales and marketing. So the transition was pretty normal, pretty natural to do. We worked together, and we got along. Then we bought a house together, and we still got along.
It's like you dated, then you got married. Tried bought a house together, and then you got married.
Then we got married. Yeah. He always says he's got a weird sense of humor. He says, and we're married, but just it's like to the stranger at the coffee shop. He goes, "We're married, but not to each other."
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
So I think it's important that, like I said, the spouses know each other, and we got together as couples and had couple dinners and talked about things. Was going to work. In fact, one of the wives came up with the idea of they had been listening to A King and Country and heard the song "Burn the Ships," and they said, "That's what we're going to do. We're going to burn the ships." And we said, "That's really kind of a cool idea. Let's incorporate that into our name." So our business name is Mocan BTS Incorporated. Mocan Burn the Ships Incorporated.
That's funny. That's great. So, do you have an operating agreement or anything like that?
We do. We have an attorney, and he put together all the operating agreements.
So you did go through the formal process? Because
We
I
did.
think a lot of times people just do a handshake. And, oh, we're friends. So we have a verbal,
Right.
we can trust each other, which if you're going into business with somebody you know or a friend, yes, you can have that kind of handshake mentality, but you still should have all of it in writing.
Right. And we have an accountant, Doug Freeman.
Yeah. He was on the show.
Yep. And then we have an attorney over in the Lease Summit who's familiar with partnerships and franchises. And so we sit down with him once a year and review everything. So, we're trying to do it right. You're still a small business, so you still end up cutting corners and just trying to get things done, right?
Sure.
He's got to get things done, but we try to do it right.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk bathrooms, because you guys are the experts. And I've always preached this, and it's just naturally how I am. If I go to a restaurant, for example, I will evaluate the restaurant, not on the food, not on anything else first, but how clean the bathroom is.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, and study after study shows that. That's
So I'm not the weirdo.
I think
here.
it's something like 60 or 70% of the people will not go back if there's a dirty restroom. I know a lot of families won't stop at certain rest stops because they know their restrooms are dirty, and they go to other ones because they're clean.
like Buc-ee's.
Like Buc-ee's.
Have you been to a Buc-ee's?
Oh, they're unbelievable.
Don't even get me started on Buc-ee's. I mean, my manager, Becky, that's funny. So Becky, she's obsessed with Buc-ee's, and I've never been to one. And she kept bringing it up, and she would, go out of her way on her road trips to go to a Buc-ee's. And I was thinking, what are you talking about to me? Like about some gas station? What is so special about this?
Right.
Until I actually visited one. Once you visit one, and especially when you go into the bathrooms,
Right.
which feels like you're going into some exclusive golf club, and then better than that,
Right.
you don't realize what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. They do a tremendous job.
So why do you think so many restaurants or even just businesses that are public facing, when you have customers going in there into the restrooms, why do they neglect this? Why do they look at this and think, it's fine, it's clean enough, it's good enough?
That's the value proposition that we have to sell every time we visit a new customer is, why do you have your line cook going into the restroom, cleaning? You're buying all the supplies, which we give you. You're taking one of your top paid people and putting them in the restroom, or your new hire who doesn't really care about being in there. Either way, they want to get out of there as quick as they can. Why are you doing that? You make food, or you do this, or you do that. Why are you cleaning restrooms? So I don't know why. I don't really know the total psychology. It's budgetary. I think a lot of places are struggling. I know during COVID, a lot of restaurants really were hurting. And a lot of them are still feeling the effects of that. I think a lot of places just think it's good enough.
Yeah.
So
Even though their customers, like you just said, 60, 70% of them are saying, if it's not clean, I'm not coming back.
right.
So they're really allocating their budget in the wrong areas first. And it's like a mind shift that needs to happen.
And if you look at the studies, and we've seen them all, but the germs in a restroom, one of the things we do is we spray a disinfectant in the restroom. It kills all the germs. And then we apply a 3-step process to cleaning the toilets, and hydrogen peroxide and acid and
This is music to my ears. Keep going.
yeah. And so we do all the things that it takes to make a toilet sparkle. Little sense of humor, but I started out in the farm, scraping manure, and now I'm ending my career doing that same thing.
That's funny. just a different context.
That's right. So that's what we do, and when we leave, we have right now it's pumpkin. We use pumpkin scent. It's fall, but we have orange and cherry and a few other scents. Your restroom smells good. You can smell it from the hallway typically, and it's clean. It's disinfected, and the germs. Every time if you want to get graphic, every time you flush the toilet, everything gets aerosolized, and for a couple of minutes, it can be floating around the air, and it settles on all the surfaces. Well, there's germs in there, and so everything you touch has germs in it.
So, we're getting into the nitty gritty here, but oh well. When you use you use a toilet, if it's not closed and you flush it, then the stuff that's in there will, like you said, get into the air,
Right.
and then you could consume that.
But it's in the air, so it sets on everything, or you walk
Touch
in
it.
touching it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that.
And another thing that's really not recommended is air hand dryers, because put your hands under there and you're dispersing that as well. Paper is much more sanitary.
Is it?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I always thought you're not touching anything,
I know.
but you are. I mean, in a different way.
Right.
And I liked what you said with the scent. That's another thing that I think a lot of business owners neglect or don't even think about is what does your business smell like as soon as you come in? Like for us, it's normal to walk in to a martial arts studio and it smells like dirty feet. That's like a normal thing. But we have to remember who's our target market, who's our customers. A lot of moms that come in, the last thing a mom wants to smell is a bunch of dirty feet in a musty place. That's something that's very important, in my opinion, not just the bathroom, but also in your business.
Right.
And making a conscious effort
And
for
I
it.
think with COVID, people became more sensitive to that. You know, what are you doing to disinfect?
Yes.
You know, are you cleaning it? What are you cleaning it with? How are you cleaning it? Are my kids safe? I don't want them to get COVID. That was a real concern for a lot of people.
Do you have, side question, do you guys have any service or how do you, for a bigger space, how do they make it like a hotel? How are they making it smell so good? Is it just like plugins everywhere, or do you know how they're doing that?
I think it's a combination of the chemicals they use to clean, and some of them have air fresheners built into the air duct system. So we have larger scent machines that we'll put up, and we can have a nice scent in a 50,000 square foot facility. A couple of those put up.
I'm guessing part of the franchise, you have the process already created of how to clean a toilet, how to clean a surface, right?
It's down to, I mean, if you watch the video, the training video, it's actually what color microfiber do you use on each type of toilet. So toilet, urinal, and sink all get different colors, and dirty and clean are different. So
this is music to my ears, and I think some people overlook these things when they're starting a business or they are operating. Is just use that microfiber cloth for the toilet, for the sink, for the desk or the table that the customer's using when they go out in the lobby.
Sure. Yeah.
But you kind of shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. Or you see them reach into the bucket that's got water in it. It's been sitting there for how long, and they take that out and they wipe your table off, and then you sit down and it's still wet. And you say, couldn't you at least dry it off? And it's full of germs. You know
Oh, my goodness.
So
I can only imagine how your perspective has changed after you've gotten to this franchise. Now you go to a restaurant.
Right.
And you watch some of their cleaning and you're just thinking, that's not clean.
So the joke is Dad gets up to use the restroom. And they're like, oh, you're going to take pictures, aren't you, Dad?
Might be a new client. I heard you all. Do you ever, wait, I don't know if somebody said, I don't know if it was you. It was somebody that was in the restaurant. He said, whenever I go to the restroom, I somehow make my way into the kitchen just so I can check to see if the kitchen's clean. Have you heard about that?
Well, no, but we can usually tell. We usually know most of the restaurants in town, whether we service them or not. So
you told me there was a major franchise that you had a stamp of approval on for their cleanliness. Who was it? Chick-fil-A, wasn't it?
Chick-fil-A is one of the ones, that our chemicals are approved to use there. We don't service a lot of the Chick-fil-A's because they do such a good job.
That's what I was
honestly.
saying. Yeah, they're already clean, right?
Yeah. And there's some restaurants that we clean that are very clean and that we just do a little bit to. Other ones that I don't know how they do it without us. So is it full? But either way, they are focusing on cleaning the restrooms. And the same with the floors in the kitchen, the floors in the dining area. We ate Sunday at a chain, I won't mention their name, and the dining floor, you could see the shiny dirt in the grout lines. It just built up. It's so thick on there.
Oh my goodness!
And you just wonder what's going on behind the wall.
Yes, because if it's dirty on the outside, you can only imagine what's going on behind the scenes in the kitchen.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shifting gears here. How do you bring your faith into your workplace?
So that's an ongoing challenge for us. We decided when we bought the business, we didn't want to make it a sweatshop. We didn't just want to have a business where people came and worked and then just went on their way. We wanted to impact people's lives. It's really a combination of not being afraid to share your faith if somebody asks. We have a couple of young people, young men that are strong Christians that are recovering, they're different addicts or whatever, and they've gone through programs. So it's nice to be able to talk to them openly about our faith. What's your devotion look like today? I read this really cool thing, or I'll get a video from one of them show me what he's been listening to, and that's encouraging for me. But then I can encourage him as well, and other people too. People that have parents that are sick or kids that are in trouble, we can pray for them. Hey, I'm going to pray for you. We get a text once in a while, even from non-Christian employees. Hey, would you pray for this for me? So they see that faith. We try and help financially. Somebody's got a major car repair they can't afford. We'll advance them the money, and we take it out over a couple of pay periods. So we try because you can tell people Jesus loves you.
Yeah.
But if you don't help them where they're at, if you don't feed the people, it's like it says, you saw me and I was hungry and you didn't feed me. Well, that's really more important to somebody than I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
I know, but I can't afford groceries this weekend. Okay, well, we'll give you some money and get you through this. We'll get through this. So
we share. I think it really comes down to, yes, we are to speak the truth and share the gospel, but who's going to want to listen to that from somebody who's not living it? Who's going to want to listen to those words if that person is getting mad at every little tiny thing that happened to them with either road rage or whatever, and then they go with a big smile, you want to accept Jesus as your Lord?
Right.
But instead, it's reflecting Christ. Christ showed us what that looks like with his servant leadership and washing the feet, all those things, and even with the Samaritan. But I think you're hitting on the head. There is we have to not only speak it but also live it, and especially even in the workplace, and even especially when you're the boss, because all eyes are on us.
Right. And we've had a chance to. My wife's a good evangelist to give out Bibles.
Yeah.
Would you like a Bible? I bought a Bible for one of the kids that works there, young men, and we went down and picked it out and had his name put on it, and he was so excited. He wanted to get a new Bible. Wanted me to go help him pick it out.
Oh my goodness!
And that was so cool. And I said, I'm just going to buy it for you. And it didn't matter because he could have probably paid for it, but other people have indicated that they'd be open and here, would you like a Bible? And oh yeah, that'd be great. Oh, I wish I could get one with my name on it. So we're going to go out and get one of the other guys that asked for it, probably not a Christian, and we're going to get him a Bible with his name on it. So you earn the right to say that to somebody. Would you like a Bible? You can't just do that. You can't just walk in and say, here, do you want this? You have to earn that right. So, and over time, like you said, if people make mistakes, if you don't beat them up for it, if you help them get better, if you help them out, if they see you helping other people out, then you earn the right to be able to share your faith.
That is such true. Thank you for that reminder. Speaking of the Bible, how much is that part of your daily routine, weekly routine?
Well, I got to admit, the last couple of, probably 2 months, I have a new puppy.
My goodness, I'll be praying for you.
And I try and get to bed early because I know between 2 and 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning I have to get up and take him out. And then he's always up before my alarm, and so frankly that's interrupted any quiet time I even have a hope of doing. But but I'm still involved in several Bible studies, and we're doing Matthew, we're doing Haggai, and then we've got the servant leader roundtable. So that forces me to spend time studying the book of Matthew, the book of Haggai. We're doing the minor prophets in one of the groups I'm in. So I have that I don't want to say discipline because it's not my discipline, but I'm in the group, so I have to be prepared. So I have to spend time in the Word. And sometimes you just have to grind it out. I mean, you just have to force yourself to read the Bible because it's not convenient. It's like, get up and have a cup of coffee and watch the sun come up and read the Bible. And, I don't know, my life doesn't work that way. So if I have to spend time at night before I go to bed and study, then that's what I do. So,
first off, I just have to mention there is such power in what you said. And I have witnessed this in my own life. There's one thing of I'm trying to get in the habit of read 30 minutes a day or one chapter a day. Great. But if you don't have some sort of goal or destination of why you're reading the Bible, like a Bible study, you kind of just go through the motions.
Right.
But when you have to show up to a Bible study, because I actually lead one now on a weekly basis, it's forced me to not only stay in the Word, because I don't want to look stupid, but also understand what I'm reading so then I don't screw it up.
Right.
Right. So I think having that accountability from other Christians is so powerful. And that's what we're called to do, is to be in a communion, to be in a discipleship with others and not do this on our own. Right.
Right. And that's a great point because and then in our church, we go through the Bible, we go through the books, and we have study guides. Yeah. That's what we use for the other ones too. But it's not questions; it's just blanks. So you just fill in your thoughts and your ideas, or you write down notes from what the pastor said or what you're thinking. Like for Matthew, we do it ahead of time, so we write our own notes in there. What does this section mean to you? And I find that's much better than, like you said, just pick it up and say, I'm going to read 3 chapters in Genesis and then 2 in Leviticus, and then I'm going to read a Psalm and a proverb. And, you just read them. Yeah. And it's always good to read the Psalms and the Proverbs because they're just cool. But if you have a reason to read it and to dig into it, you get a little bit more out of it. So
I found having a solid commentary to also supplement my reading helps a lot with kind of knowing the context of history and what's going on with each verse. So last question about the Bible is, why is that important to you to be in the Word on a daily, weekly basis?
Well, it's God's Word. It's God's instruction book for us. And there's all kinds of wisdom in there from the creator of the universe. Why would you not tap into that? So it's life's manual. Yeah.
But we're not going to know it if we don't read it.
Should do it a lot more.
Yeah. We can't treat the Bible like sometimes we do when we get a new product and we just wing it when we put it together and we wonder why there's like 3 screws missing and it doesn't work. Yeah. That's kind of how I see making sure Scripture takes a priority in my life. So as we wrap this up, how can our listeners learn more about your business?
Well, we're on the web, Enrivo-Master of Kansas City. Just look us up and give us a call. I give you the phone number, but it's even better. You can go into the clean restrooms that smell good and look for our sticker on the toilet or the urinal.
Then you can really then you'll know your work.
Know what we do. That's right. And we're not for everybody, but and that's okay. But for the ones that want to employ us, we do a good job. And you get the owner, one of the owners usually that goes in there and checks on it on a regular basis. So
do you guys do daily or every other day or?
Oh, we do weekly.
Weekly. Okay.
Yep, just weekly. And that's our model, and that's what we do because that's what's the best value for the customer.
I'm guessing you do like a deep clean, and then they can do kind of the
just
maintenance.
To touch up. Yep.
So can you join me in my plea to everybody who's listening that has any sort of responsibility of their bathroom to oversource the cleanliness of their bathroom, because it will hit their bottom line, whether they can understand this or not. but let's start a movement now with getting all businesses to make this a priority.
And I'll tell you what, the busy restaurants you go to, they all have clean restrooms.
Buc-ee's, this is where it's so amazing, is they have a full-time staff member.
Yeah.
Have you seen them?
Yeah, it's like the Charlotte airport. They have a person that stands there and they just follow you around and clean up after you.
It's just,
it's amazing.
It's you don't have to convince me. So anyways, thank you so much for coming on. This has been such a blessing for me, and I know for our listeners. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.